I think the biggest thing with Chris is just his overall maturity. I think that's something that you can kind of see on the field too, and that's been the biggest difference for him. I think at points last year maybe he was playing a little too emotional or thinking too much and having all sorts of stuff going down. I think this year you can see he's just very calm. When he's playing games, it's almost like he's just at practice. It's not too much for him. It's not overwhelming, whatever it may be. He's just nice, calm, reserved, and I think that's honestly been the biggest stride for him. He obviously knows everything in and out now in the playbook too, and that allows him to play fast and play really well.
What does it say about Chris's maturity that you start off with Ohio State and you struggle against UCF, but he's really bounced back, and I think it's 3 straight games with 300 passing yards in a row. He's playing really well.
Definitely, I think it's cool to see him respond well. From maybe a couple tough games, poor performances, and then come back and have some really good ones. I think that's one of the things that we challenged him with is each game is its own individual one. Your last game has no reason for you to be successful or not successful in the next one. So play UCF, maybe doesn't have a great game, comes back the next week and does, and then he ripped in a row. 3 pretty good games. So it's been really impressive from him to be able to do that.
What's been your overall takeaway with the receivers? Obviously, that was a position of concern coming into the year, but it seems like they've played fairly well.
Yeah, I think they stepped up. We really challenged them, especially after the UCF game, that we needed them to be able to come out and make some plays. And I think for the most part, they really have. They've done a good job catching the football and doing things the right way and working their tails off at practice. And I think that's been a huge part as well for Chris too, is that he's got receivers, tight ends, running backs all catching the ball, really doing a really good job.
About the running backs catching the balls. That seems it's a bigger part of your game. It seems
Definitely.
Like this year than.
Yeah, I think in the offseason we always do studies and look at what could we have done better, and I think certainly involving the running backs in the passing game was a point of emphasis for us. And losing 2 great players like Motor and K. White, I think you got to get a little creative in the things that you do, and so helping those guys out and getting them some touches on the perimeter. I think you can see Malcolm is a guy that's pretty explosive with the ball in his hands and finding ways to get him the ball in space. So it's also easy completions for Chris to help him get going too. So I think that's been very useful for us this year.
You really didn't need to create space for Motor last year. He kind of did it himself.
He just did it himself, yeah, for sure.
With the Nick Tronti packages,
Mm-hmm.
and this isn't so much a scheme question, but how did he respond when the conversation came about of, we want you to play, but it'd be in these packages?
Nick Tronti is absolutely what you want for in a teammate, what we look for someone to play at FAU. He's totally selfless, will do anything that it takes to help the team win, no matter how big, how small, whether it's signaling, whether it's helping Chris out, whether it's getting a little package and running the ball, maybe throw a ball here or there. So I think he's just responded the best way that he possibly could and just totally excited. He just wants to help the team win, and that's what we want from all of our players.
With those packages, do you think, though they may not be a lot of time, do you think those can help Chris too, so he can dissect the defense from the sideline?
Absolutely. I think it's always good when he can take a second, get a breather. He can even see what's going on the field, and that could certainly help him out. And especially when you're moving the ball. I think you saw in the Charlotte game. Anytime Tronti came in, hey, he got the first down for us, and then we'll get back into your normal stuff and help open it up.
When you saw what Nick can do on the ground, especially when Chris came back, did you start thinking in the back of your mind, like, if we can make a package work with Tronti as the quarterback, let's do it?
Yeah, I think, we just look every single week, how do we win this game? And, if that week, if it takes, hey, Tronti's got to have a little package to run the ball, then that's what it takes. And so we thought that against Charlotte, we needed to have a little extra help in the run game with some of that stuff right there. And it certainly was effective. So, it's just whatever it takes to win the game. Some weeks it might happen, some weeks it might not, but just whatever it takes.
Coach, if you've answered this one, I'll just get it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Transcript. But in your second year, how are you more comfortable? What have you learned? What are you doing better as a coordinator?
I think probably the biggest thing is just last year we had, some really, really good players, and losing them, I don't know if it's maybe the year-to-year thing or whatever, but just kind of us as an offense totally is just trying to find ways to help our players be more successful, putting them in a little bit easier positions to win compared to maybe it is just, hey, let's give Motor the ball and let him go to work. I think we maybe have done a little bit better job of helping our guys out and putting them in better places to succeed.
Does this offense have an identity?
I think we're getting there. I don't think it's quite there yet. As you guys all know, our identity wants to be to run the football. Obviously, we haven't done that totally to our standard at this point in time, but we're working to get there. And the development of Chris has obviously shown that we can be very explosive in the passing game as well. So I think as we continue progressing in the passing game, get our run game along, I think we'll find exactly who we want to be. So we're on our way right now.
In your mind, not on the statute, just in your mind when you think about, are screen passes or jet sweeps, are those the run game to you?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, those we count in the run game stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, it counts for passing yards, for Chris's statistics. But
in that respect, is the run game maybe a little bit better at this point than kind of what we're giving it credit for, because we're just counting runs and taking away sacks and all that?
Certainly. I mean, statistically, like you said, sacks get counted against it. You don't get the jet sweep stuff. And even your RPO game is really attachments to your runs, right? Because if people put, 7 guys in the box and we throw a slant RPO behind it, well, we're taking advantage of them having an extra guy in the box. And that's still a part of the run game, because we called a run. Just because we threw the ball doesn't mean it was a called pass, if that makes sense. So I think, like you said, statistically, that maybe hurts a little bit. So, but we're still not where we need to be, and we're still working to get there.
So how will you know when you need to be? Is there a marker that you need to reach? Is it?
It's not a marker. It's just seeing things, done the way that we expect it to, and the amount of movement up front that we want to get, and our backs pressing the hole and making the cuts that we want to go to. It's not necessarily numbers. It's just people playing with the details that we want them to play with, and making the right calls up front, making the right blocks, moving people the right way, running backs pressing the runs correctly. When we see all those details being done right, that's when we'll know where we are, where we need to be.
What do you think's been the biggest thing preventing you guys from, at least the running game, performing into the standard in which you guys are trying to get to?
I think it's just a combination of some new linemen and some new running backs in, and it's not easy, to develop it and get it everybody 100% on the same page. So I think it's just having some of those new guys in there and trying to nail it down with those backs and the space and the timing of everything, compared to the year before where our backs had already been here. We had some linemen that had already been here and kind of had a good feel for things already.